Okay, we want to talk about some basic shapes. These shapes of graphs that represent functions. Pre-calculus being the study of functions, we start with the graphs of three basic functions. Okay, we call these our toolkit functions. There are maybe a total of 10 toolkit functions that everything in pre-calculus is based on. But if you understand these three, it becomes easy to understand the rest. Okay, now I'm just going to slop down a few graphs. You should be able to do this every bit as quickly as I'm doing it. Okay, my squares aren't great, but so be it. Okay, so this graph is going to look something like this. Kind of like a U, but it doesn't go, it's never vertical. Okay, now this graph is going to maybe look like this. Not sure that's a good picture. And this graph is going to look like this. And the red dots, you notice I've got red dots on these three graphs. Okay, the dots go here, here, and here. Now, let's go ahead and construct these. Now, you notice that I was able to draw these three graphs quickly. Okay, and probably took me 30 seconds. You can time it. You've got a timer running on your video. But I'm going to construct them a little more carefully. And I'm going to try to use some pretty colors. Okay. Okay, this graph, the first one, looks something like this. Now, the low point should actually go through the red dots. I didn't quite get it right. And my low point seems to be just a little bit to the right of the red dot. And of course, my arm was blocking me as I attempted to draw this thing. So I didn't do a really good job of it, but it's a fairly good representation. So if you modify this just slightly, you have the graph of your basic parabola. So I'll call this a parabola. Okay, this graph is going to start. Okay, well, I'm going to divide this interval here in half. Okay, so I'm going to put a line. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and draw a dotted line all the way across. So then I'm going to take half of that. Well, let's see, not half. I'm going to divide this interval in half. It should be a little lower. Okay, so that this dotted line is twice as close to the bottom of the rectangle as this. And then I'm going to divide this in half. Here, here. Then the interval from here to here in half. Now, clearly, I could keep doing this, but this is all I'm going to need in order to draw this graph. Then I'm going to divide the interval from the red dot to the end here in half. And I'm going to divide the interval from the red dot to this end in half. And I'm going to put vertical dotted lines here, here, and here. Now, if I've done that, then it's not difficult to learn to do this. Very easy. You just do it 5 or 6 times. You know, it only takes a minute or less each time, and you know how to draw this graph. Okay. Then we're going to put a mark here. We put a mark here, put a mark here, put a mark here, and put a mark here. And I'm going to draw a nice smooth curve through these marks. Okay. There's my second curve. Okay. Now look for my third curve. I'm going to put a line here, cuts this rectangle in half vertically, and then a horizontal line that cuts it in half horizontally. Then I'm going to cut the interval from here to here in half. Then I'm going to cut the interval from here to here in half. so that I've got this thing cut into quarters. I didn't cut this into quarters because I didn't need it. Okay. Then I'm going to cut the interval from here to here in half, put a mark, and then cut the interval from here to here in half and put a mark. And then I'm going to do the same for the interval from here to here, cut it in half, cut this interval in half. Now, a lot of times people will do this and they haven't really cut the intervals in half because these three marks are equally spaced. Well, you didn't cut them in half if you got three equally spaced marks, or did you? Okay, so you got to be careful to cut them in half. Okay. Now, I'm going to draw a dotted line, vertical dotted line here, vertical dotted line here, another one here, another one here. And then make a mark here. Now I'm gonna do one more thing. Okay? I'm gonna kind of distinguish this little mark. I'm gonna make it green. Hopefully you can see the color. Okay, but we're not going to put any points on this mark, on this vertical line here. We've got it so we can do the rest of the stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do this and this and this, and that's it. To the right of this mark, and then points to the right of this mark. I just note these points with a nice smooth curve. And I really screwed that up. Okay, so I'm going to fix that. Okay, I've changed things a little bit. My red dot is still at the middle of this square. The square is a little cockeyed, but you know, make yours better than I did mine. Okay. Okay. Now, again, I cut the interval from here to here in half, and the interval from here to here in half. As before, the interval from here to here, the interval from here to here. Cut them in half. Okay. Then the interval from here to here. Cut it in half. Now notice I cut the interval from the red line to here in half, and then from the red line to here in half. Same thing on this side. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to cut the interval from the red line to this mark in half. Okay. Then from the red line to the top of the square, cut that in half. And then from the red line to that mark, cut that in half. Okay. Now I've got what I need. Draw my horizontal and vertical lines as the draw button. Let's draw them to the right. Mark. Okay. Okay, now I can plot my points. Now I'm only going to have points in the upper right quadrant. Okay, quadrant, which split this square into 4 smaller squares with these red lines. Okay, this is your top right quadrant, and this is your lower left quadrant. And those are the only places we're going to have marks. Okay, so marking here, we just mark this point, and this point, and this point. We don't mark anything on the red line. Then we connect these 3 points. And that's it for the upper right quadrant. In the lower left quadrant, it's going to do something very similar. It's going to just be a reflection of what we did here. If we reflect this point through the origin, we end up at this point. We made a line from here to here. We're not going to make that line. Okay. And we get this point. Reflect this point through the origin, or through the red dot. Call it the origin because that's what it's going to be, and then reflect this point. We get this. We can kind of see this point as a reflection of this, and this point as a reflection of this. This point as a reflection of this, and then we connect those with a smooth curve, and then we have this dot. Okay. I don't want to use that word. Okay. Okay, now. This graph is a parabola. It's a shape you should be familiar with if you've had the prerequisite courses. Don't have a name for this one, but we're going to call this exponential. And we're going to call this reciprocal. Or inverse proportion. All right, there we go. Okay, well, those are basic shapes. You should, if you learn how to sketch those, then you have accurate graphs of 3 of our most important and most fundamental functions. Now, in the next video, I'll tell you a little bit more about what these functions are, and we might move on to how they're used and what you can do with them.